Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Sam Menzie. We've got a show for you today. First topic we're going over is the Tampa Bay Rays and their trade deadline, previewing it and just going over all the moves they could and maybe will make. So we'll be talking about that. Then we'll be talking about the Mets rotation and the situation that has evolved there with Christian Scott going on the injured list yesterday. Then talking about Robbie Ray making his season debut with the Giants, the Mariners' offensive troubles, and Alex Cora and his extension with the Boston Red Sox. But before we do all that, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers to ensure that your question does get read in the air. Please use the link, gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show. It really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get into the show for today. All right, so the first topic I'm going to be talking about, of course, is, as I stated, the Tampa Bay Rays and their trade deadline that is going on. So let's get into that. So going into this year's trade deadline, the Rays are one of the league's most fascinating teams. There's been rumors percolating now for a few weeks that they could trade one of their star players, including Isaac Paredes, Randy Arozarena. Maybe they'll buy, maybe they'll sell lower kind of players and not go all in the selling and try to rebuild next year. So there's really a lot going on around this Rays team, and I just did want to get on here and talk about what they could do, what they should do, and what I think they will do. So I wanted to go over all that. So first off, I wanted to talk about, the two stars you see there, Isaac Paredes and Randy Arozarena. Now, Paredes is a top 5 third baseman in baseball, I'd say consistently one of the best overall hitters. Since coming over from Detroit 2 or 3 years ago, he has been just a fantastic hitter with Tampa Bay, and overall has been really one of the big reasons why this Rays team has consistently been really great. We always talk about how don't trade with the Rays, and I think he is mainly the biggest reason why. Because of that, the Rays a few years ago made a very questionable trade. I remember being online for that, and when I saw it, I was like, what the heck are they doing? This makes no sense whatsoever. The trade was Austin Meadows for Isaac Paredes. Now, at the time, Austin Meadows was a very solid outfielder for this Rays team, a corner outfielder who we thought was going to get traded. He was getting into the later years of his arbitration, so his contract was rising. So just simply put, because what the Rays' money situation is, they can't keep a lot of those players. It wasn't a surprise he got traded. Surprise who he got traded for. He got traded for Paredes to the Tigers. Now, Paredes at that time was a former top prospect who had never caught on with this Tigers team. Was always a 4A kind of player who would crush AAA, get up to the major leagues, not do well at all, get sent down, and kind of repeat that cycle over and over and over. And trading Meadows, a very good hitter at that point, for Paredes just seemed like a very weird move. And yes, at the time we all said, the Rays, they know what they're doing. In my head, I was still like, there's no way this turns out good, right? Well, it did. Meadows has barely played any games for the Tigers because of off-the-field issues, including his mental health. So obviously, that's not something to joke about. Obviously, a very serious situation there, so I always wish the best to him. But, he's barely played any games for them, and just looking at it baseball-wise, Paredes has been one of the best hitters in all of baseball. So the fact that the Rays made that move was really incredible. And now going into this deadline, where they're being very mediocre, there are a good amount of games outside of first place in the AL East. Good amount of games outside of the wild card. It's looking like they are going to be sellers, and it will be interesting to see what ends up happening. So the question is, do they trade Paredes and Arozarena? Both are very good players. Obviously, Paredes having a much better year than Arozarena, who isn't having his greatest year, but still is, in my opinion, a very good, solid player. So it's not exactly something I think you have to, take into account for the majority of his future. I think it's kind of just a one-year thing where he's just simply put having a bad season. Really, nothing you can do about that. So you have that as well. But also with that the question becomes: do the Rays completely blow it up and trade one of these guys, or should they? Or are they not? And I think really what it comes down to is: are the Rays going into a full-out rebuild, or are they just selling for this 1 year? And if I was the Rays, I would not be trading Arozarena or Paredes. I think that they should not blow this team up. I think there's a lot going right for the future, and as much as this year hasn't gone great, I still think, future-wise, next year, looking past that as well, this Rays team can be very good. You look at this rotation, what it could be next year. I mean, guys who potentially be on the roster next year: Zach Littell, Zach Eflin, who we're going to talk about after this, by the way, as trade pieces, Brian Pepio, Taj Bradley, Jeffrey Springs, Shane Baz, Drew Rasmussen, and of course, one of the best pitchers in baseball, who has been out all year with Tommy John, Shane McClanahan. After that, you have some really nice offensive pieces as well. You have a catcher, Ben Rortvedt, who's had a really solid season here in Tampa Bay. Yandy Diaz, a great player who is on is on the restricted list as well, so we don't really know what's going on there, but hopefully hope it's all the best with him. Beretta, still a great player. Brandon Lau, always a very solid player. Jose Caballero having a very solid season. Richie Palacios having an okay season. Amer Dazario has become a really solid signing for this Rays team. Christian Meade, very solid. You have, of course, Junior Camarena, one of the top prospects in baseball, who will be up eventually. Again, a Rosarena's there. Jose Siri's there. Johnny DeLuca. Josh Lau. So there's a lot of still good players on this Rays team. So I just think because of the injuries they've had, because of the situations they've had, obviously that they can't control, obviously with the shortstop, I think that this year just hasn't gone right for them, but I still think they have a lot going right for the future. So if I'm them personally, I'm not trading Paredes or Rosarena. I'm trading guys on 1 to 2 year deals. You can get prospects back for that can contribute the next year. A guy in A-ball who is going to slide in as your 12th best prospect isn't going to do much for you. So I don't think you should trade guys just to trade guys, if you know what I mean. So if I'm the Rays, I'm trading these 1 to 2 year guys, you aren't going to be huge parts of your future. I think, first of all, Zach Littell and Zach Eflin, I believe both will be traded, to be perfectly honest with you. Zach Eflin, I think, is a lock to be gone. His contract really jumps up into the 20 millions next year, so I think the Rays would love to get that off their books and get a good prospect back for him. He isn't having as great of a season as he had last year in Tampa Bay, but I still think he's a very good pitcher, and I think teams know that, and I think their internal projections will show that, which will cause them to provide his value at higher than it is right now with the numbers-wise. Zach Littell, very solid swingman starting pitcher type. I think will get a good amount back in a trade. I think could is valuable to a lot of teams. So I think those two guys are definitely gone. And the relievers as well. The Rays just churn out relievers like it's nobody's business. So trading a guy like Jason Adam, Colin Poche, Garrett Clevenger, Sean Armstrong, Kevin Kelly, Tyler Alexander, these guys that are older relievers who have 1 to 2 year left in their contract or so, I think that overall those guys are probably likely to be traded because they just aren't huge parts of the Rays' future, and they get some good prospects back for them. So I think what the Rays' strategy will be and should be is rather than trading these big star players in a Rosarena and Paredes, it should be to kind of thread the needle where you're trading these 1 to 2 year guys, calling up some guys from the farm because you can make any player great. I see it seems like with this organization, call up Camarena and try to continue to be the sustainable winner that you want to be for next year as well. And the interesting thing about the Rays is they've shown willingness to spend money over these past few years. Again, also, they signed Zach Eflin to the biggest contract in franchise history, 3 years, $45 million, which obviously 3 years, $45 million is probably a regular contract for most teams, but for the Rays, that's a big deal. They offered Aaron Judge a $300 million contract. Those are some interesting things, and I mentioned it before when I was talking about the Judge segment when I did that a few weeks ago. There's two guys who are from Tampa that are going to be on the free agency path this year and next year. Pete Alonso this year and Kyle Tucker next year. You want to sell tickets? You want to continue to have the franchise in Tampa? Sign one of those superstar players that is from Tampa and you can market around. I'm sure they'd love to go home. Pete Alonso grew up a diehard Rays fan. Favorite player was Evan Longoria, and is from Tampa. Maybe he isn't the most analytical type of signing because he's an older first baseman, but he'll still be a very solid player, I think, and he sells tickets. So I think those are something you have to look. That's something you have to look out for as well. Also, someone I didn't mention again was Yandy Diaz, who I wanted to mention. Of course, is on the restricted list, I believe, with some personal issue going on. We don't really know what's going on with him. Obviously, privacy is the most important thing to him, so I'm not exactly going to prod there to see what's going on. But also, that's someone I think could be traded. Diaz is a really great player and consistently one of the best hitters in all baseball, but he's 34. So, how long do you see him continuing to play at this level, and how long do you see him being an immediate part of your future? Sorry, he's 32, but still older. Paredes is 25. Randy is 27, 28. So, when you're looking at the Rays' future, you want to build around guys like Paredes, like a Rosarena. You don't want to trade them. I understand that the Dodgers have shown interest in Randy. I understand that the Astros have shown interest in Paredes, but to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to trade these guys when next year you could very well do good. I think the Blue Jays are gearing towards a rebuild with whatever they say publicly or not. And the Yankees, who knows what their next year looks like, if they lose Soto or not. The Red Sox, will they continue doing this? The Orioles story is going to be great, but you can compete with them. So I think that the Rays' future is still very bright, and there's a lot to like here. So if I'm them, what I'm doing is threading the needle, trading these 1 to 2 year guys, these older guys, and then gearing up towards next year with Paredes, with a Rosarena, 2 of your franchise stars. And that's what I think they will do in the end as well. I don't think they're going to really be big buyers. They're smarter than that. They know just this year isn't their year. Again, just going into the year as well, I kind of knew it was going to be their year. You had the Franco situation, which is so unfortunate for all the victims involved in that case as well. You had pitching injuries, mainly to Shane McClanahan and Jeffrey Springs. So I kind of always knew this wasn't going to be a year. But again, looking at the future of this Rays team, it's really bright. I mean, going into opening day next year, you could have a rotation of what I would say would be Jeffrey Springs, Shane McClanahan, Shane Baz, Drew Rasmussen, Ryan Pepio. Even if Charles Bradley as well, those 6 guys. Even if you trade Littell and Eflin, you have the pitching depth to be able to not really feel the loss of that next year. So it'll be very interesting to see that as well. I mean, first base, you could have Yandy. Second base, Brandon Lau. Third base, Paredes. You could have shortstop, maybe move someone over and then have Camareno and Curtis Mead playing either the corner outfield or the corners at the infield. So be very interesting to watch, and the Rays' future is something that is really on my mind heading into August 1st. So that is our first segment here, talking about the Tampa Bay Rays and their trade deadline. Moving into our second segment, which is going to be talking about Christian Scott and the injury to his arm, and just talking about the Mets rotation. So yeah, we're going over that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
Looking for your daily fix?
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment, which is going to be talking about the Mets and the rotation situation with Christian Scott being injured. But before that, I would like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please hit the link at gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show. It really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so we talked about the Mets, my favorite team. I make no measure of hiding that. Yesterday was a good day, as we did end up clinching the season series against the Yankees, which is always fun. Have now won 3 out of the 4 games. 4th game left to be played tonight, so hopefully we go for the sweep. That'll be great. But yeah, so news broke yesterday, I'd say, actually during my show. I remember reacting to it live during my show. I saw it during one of my breaks, that Christian Scott was placed on the 15-day injured list by the New York Mets with a UCL sprain. Now, a UCL sprain is bad. Anything involving UCL that is not of the normal is basically death for a pitcher. That's something that is absolutely awful and not something that you want whatsoever. Anything like that is just something that you have to take with the highest level of priority to make sure that this person is okay, that this person is, fully healthy. So when that happened, I was very surprised. I didn't expect that to happen and was worried. And a lot has been made of the Mets rotation and the situation with them going into the trade deadline. And now with Christian Scott going on the IL, I did want to talk about it. So the Mets have been, there's been a lot of reports, I should say, about the Mets that they are willing to trade from their pitching depth. Now, the Mets have something a lot of teams don't have right now, which is, as I said, pitching depth. The Mets right now, I would say, have 8 or 9 pitchers that can make a start at a high level. I mean, they have very good depth right now, which a lot of teams just simply do not have at this point in the season. And because of that, they have, I think, a lot of reports have been that the Mets are willing to trade from that depth to be able to, further other parts of their team or farm system because they're willing to take advantage of that market. I mean, just going off the top of my head here, You have, of course, Kodai Senga, who should be back Friday, so I'm factoring him in at this point. Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, Christian Scott when he's healthy. You have, of course, also Jose Quintana, David Peterson, Tyler McGill. You have Brandon Sproat from the minor leagues as well, someone that could be called up rather soon, a prospect that I think is close to the major leagues. And then you also have Jose Budo, who's out of the bullpen. That's 9 guys right there that I, as a Mets fan, will feel comfortable with making a start. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Tyler McGill, but I think there's a lot worse options ever. So, so the thing that has been talked about is, would the Mets trade from that pitching depth to further a different part of their team, get some prospects back, and take advantage of that market? Now, with Scott going on the IL, it is a little bit different, because now with Scott going on the IL, let's say you have, let's look what you have now. So now you would have, of course, Senga, you would have Severino, Manaea, Quintana, Peterson, McGill, Budo, Sproat. So that's 8 now. Let's say you trade from one of them. Okay, let's say you trade Quintana. He's been someone that has been talked about a lot as being traded because he only has 1 year left in his deal. He's older. It just makes some sense. There, you have 7 now. So your rotation would look like Senga at the 1, Severino at the 2. You would have Manaea at the 3. You would probably have Peterson there, and then you would have someone like McGill. So that would be your 5 there. And the question now becomes, how much worse does your rotation become? And I think at this point now, with Scott being injured, it is a problem because Budo's been really great out of the bullpen. So you're now down to 6, assuming you trade a starter. And again, I'm not a big fan of McGill, and that's 5. And you have to have a 6-man rotation because of Senga. So you're kind of in a situation now where that's a question mark. So I wouldn't trade from their starting pitching. I think that's kind of out of the window here. And now with Scott, do you even trade for a starting pitcher? Because right now, if you're a Mets fan, you feel very comfortable in that top 4. You feel very comfortable in Senga. I have no problem that he's going to come back healthy. I think he's going to be really great, like he always is. I mean, we only have 1 year of that, but, hey, it was a pretty great year. You have Severino, who's been very solid. Manaea, who's been very solid. That's 3. Peterson, who's actually been very solid. And then, of course, Quintana, who also has been better as of recently. So that's 5. You need a 6th guy to help out in the rotation. Are you going to put Budo back in the rotation, even though he's been really great in the bullpen? Are you going to call up Brandon Sproat and kind of fast track his development to get into a playoff race? It's all a question mark. So I think the question now is, what do the Mets do about their rotation? Do they trade from it now? Is that all gone? Do they do nothing with it? And I really do think that the best path for them right now is to stand pat. I think that all the rumors about them trading from their rotation are kind of dead now because of Scott. And now what happens next year, let's say, if Scott has the worst situation possible, and then he gets Tommy John? I mean, he has a UCL injury. It's not like I'm reaching entirely here. No, it's not great right now. So I think it's really a question at this point, what happens with that? So if I'm the Mets right now, what do I do with the rotation? First of all, I think you have to keep Budo in the bullpen. Budo has just been such an electrifying presence out of that bullpen. He's done so great in that 2, 3, 4 innings sometime, even role. And I would have him in their starting rotation next year, but still. So right now, with the Mets going into Senga's going to start on Friday, assuming there's no setbacks in his rehab, which I don't know if there should be. He's done with rehab starts. It would have to be something in warm-up or something like that. But obviously, they're going to take it very careful, so I would understand if something does happen. Even the tiniest, minuscule thing, I think, could happen. You would now have Senga as the ace, Severino as the 2 guy, Manaea as the 3, Quintana as the 4, Peterson as the 5, and then what? McGill as the 6th? Would you have Budo there? Would you have Sproat there? So it'll be interesting. So I think right now the Mets rotation still is looking very solid. I mean, yes, after Senga, there's really no elite guy. I think Severino's really more of a good 3 than a 2. So that's a question mark there. But how long is Scott going to be out? I mean, if he returns, that's great. What happens with Budo? What happens with Brandon Sproat? Personally, if I was the Mets, I'd call up Brandon Sproat to be in the bullpen. I think he continues his development there, especially at the highest level, and then uses great stuff out of the bullpen, but you're not overworking his arm. That's just me, though. Also, you need bullpen help so badly, but again. So I think the Mets rotation right now and just what happens with this team is going to be very, very interesting. And overall, I am just very excited to see what the Mets do. Now, to be honest, if I'm expecting what will the Mets do at the deadline is really what I have to wonder now. Now, I think it's pretty clear. I don't think they're going to do anything crazy. I just think they're going to get 2 bullpen arms. Whether it's a righty, whether it's a lefty, whether it's 2 lefties, whether it's 2 righties. Please, not 2 righties. Get me at least 1 lefty. I'd like 2, but But credit to Jake Diekman. I mean, he's been the lefty all year, and he did amazing last year. Last night, even though he's been horrible all year, struck out Aaron Judge. So I think really what they're going to do is they've already acquired 1 bullpen arm in Phil Maton. I think they're going to acquire at least 2 I think at least 1 arm. I think it would have to be a lefty and then 1 righty arm as well. Guys who aren't going all in, not someone of the caliber of a Tanner Scott, but maybe an Andrew Chafin, someone like that, who's on the middle tier of that. You're also getting reinforcements. Shintaro Fujinami is someone you could call up as depth. Reed Garrett is coming back soon. Sean Reed Foley, I believe, is coming back soon. So there are still some depth options here you can have for this Mets team. So overall, I think their pitching is very interesting to watch, and I think this Mets team is a very interesting team to watch. But overall, just going over it, I think this Mets team is really good. If they win tonight and the Braves lose again, they'll be 1 game out of being in second place in the NL East. That's crazy. So they're right now second place for the wild card. I mean, they just overtook the St. Louis Cardinals, even though they have the same winning percentages. The Mets have the tiebreaker because they beat the Cardinals in a series, I believe. But yeah, overall, the Mets are doing really good right now. This offense is really clicking, and the fact is, it hasn't really been clicking since the All-Star break. But overall the season it has been. I'm saying since the All-Star break it hasn't, but overall they're still finding ways to win. So that's really just a great job by them, and they're a very interesting team going into this deadline, and I'm very, very excited and interested as a Mets fan to see what moves they make and overall what decisions are going to be had. Also, I think next year the rotation is going to be looking really great. All the prospects coming up, so very excited about that, and very excited to see this Mets team overall and see what's going to happen. So yeah, that is our second segment here, talking about the Mets and the rotation and what's going on there. Moving into our third segment, which is going to be talking about Robbie Ray and his season debut with the San Francisco Giants, which is going to be happening tonight at 10 o'clock. So I'll be going over that, the impact it's going to have on the team and all that. So yeah, going over the break, and we'll see you then. So thanks, and bye.
Mix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment here today. But before we do that, I would like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers to ensure that your question does get read in the air. Please hit the link, gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot. So thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so our third topic is going to be about Robbie Ray and the San Francisco Giants and him making his season debut. So let's get into it. So Robbie Ray was traded in a pretty significant trade in the offseason from Seattle to San Francisco. In a pretty weird trade. Ray was, of course, a former Cy Young winner from the Blue Jays. Turned that season into a big contract with the Mariners. Had one season there that was okay, nothing great, but nothing horrible as well. Then had Tommy John, and then got traded to San Francisco. So it was really weird with what happened overall with Robbie Ray there, but he got traded to San Francisco after that, and it was just kind of a weird trade. But now he's coming back, and I think he's going to be an important piece of pitching depth for this Giants team, and overall be something that is very, very interesting to watch. So with this Giants team, I've talked about them a few times on the show that I like their team a lot, to be perfectly honest with you. But the thing is, I kind of think all these reinforcements are a little too late. Right now, the only NL teams worse than them currently are the Nationals, Rockies, and Marlins, and those are not teams you want to be in conversations with. I mean, they're 5 games out of the wild card. They're not going to win the NL West, obviously, considering the Dodgers are there, and they're pretty far out from the Padres and the Diamondbacks as well. They're 4 behind the Diamondbacks and 4.5 behind the Padres. So it's not exactly like they're continually in the conversation to win that NL West or make the playoffs. So I do think as much as Robbie Ray will help, as much as I like their pitching depth coming back in the second half, I think it's a little too late, and I do expect them to be sellers at the deadline. Now, I talked about before that I really like their team, and honestly, I would think about buying. Well, I think that's true. I think it's, there's situations that you have to evaluate as well. I mean, as much as I like their team, they are not in a position where I think they're going to make the playoffs. Again, I really think that there's only 5 teams actually. I'll put the Cardinals in there now because they continue to do well and surprise me. 5 teams that really are in conversation for that wild card that I feel confident about. I mean, there's also other teams as well that are there that realistically can get in there. I mean, the Pirates are only a game behind, but so I really think the Pirates are going to continue to do this well. Not really, even with Skeens. So overall, I think that there's too many teams in the NL this year to be able to, go in front of. I mean, teams that are above them are the Cubs, Reds, Pirates. That's 3 already. Diamondbacks, Padres, Cardinals. That's 6. Mets and Braves. That's 8. So there's 8 teams above them. To get into the playoffs, they would have to go over 5 teams as well. Cubs, Reds, Pirates, Diamondbacks, and Padres. So it's not exactly like that's going to be, a piece of cake. So overall, I think that this Giants team, as much as there's a lot of talent here, as much as their players have started to do much better, I again think it's a little too late. And as much as Robbie Ray coming back is a valuable piece of pitching that I think will really help this team, I just don't think it's going to be enough. Also, Blake Snell has done much better recently, so that's going to be a really important addition to your staff as well. You also, of course, have Alex Cobb coming back eventually, so I think that'll really help. And then your rotation there already. I mean, you have Logan Webb, Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks, that's 3. Keaton Wynn is there, that's 4. You're going to have now Robbie Ray, 5. Alex Cobb, 6. Blake Snell. So you have a lot of good arms in this rotation. Hayden Birdsong is also someone that has done really well with this Giants team in a limited role, but I know a lot of Giants fans have really liked him as well. So there's a lot that is interesting about this Giants team, and this Robbie Ray season debut, I think that it is going to be something that really does help this team. But I mean, we're a week out of the deadline, and I don't think that there is a genuine way that the Giants are going to be able to get in this conversation enough where they can say to themselves, okay, it makes sense to buy now. It makes sense to try to compete in this NL. So yeah. I like this team a lot still. I think there's a lot of great offensive talents, which has really helped out, and that was really my main problem for them. I mean, Patrick Bailey's become a really good player. Lamont Wade has done really well as well. You also have Wilmer Flores doing better. Mike Conforto being really solid. Elliot Ramos was an all-star. Mike Yastrzemski's always going to have a lot of talent in that bat. So overall, as much as it is unfortunate about this Giants team, I think that they still have a nice foundation, and it'll be interesting to see who they trade and what they trade at the deadline. So Robbie Ray, though, I think will again provide a valuable asset to them in the future. I think next year, assuming Blake Snell doesn't leave, because I don't think this is the year he wants to go on the free agent market for, you'll have a lot of players in that rotation. You'll have, I'd say, 6 guys that are really good, and you can be able to trade from that, sign some guys as well if you want to swap in and out. So it's going to be very, very interesting to watch, and I think this Giants team overall will be interesting. And look, as much as I've said that they will probably sell at the deadline, they should sell at the deadline, and as much as it's a little too late, their second half is the chance to be really good. I mean, you're getting Snell back, who has done much better as of recently. You're getting Robbie Ray back, who I think overall he's going to just be a very solid guy. Alex Cobb is one of my favorite pitchers of baseball. I really like watching him, and I really think that there's a lot of potential in that arm as well. So overall, there is still a lot to like about this Giants team, and I think the second half will be better. But still, I think, again, it's a little too late, and I just don't think that they're going to be able to be competitive with these other teams in the NL, and it is unfortunate how that's happened, but still, it's just kind of how it is. So, yeah, I think that, again, this Giants team, a lot of talent, a lot coming back, which really does help, but a little too late, and that is really the unfortunate reason why I don't think that they're going to be competitive mainly. And I think that, maybe if Robbie Ray has one good start, they want to trade him. I mean, that would kind of be funny. I don't think that would happen, but, crazier things have happened, right? So, yeah, that is it for the Giants, and that is it for about Robbie Ray and just this team. It was a little bit of an all over the place segment, but I did want to just get my thoughts on about the Giants and their trade deadline heading into it, and how Robbie Wright coming back now will help them and make sure they do much better. So yeah, that is my third segment here, talking about that. Moving into our fourth segment, which is going to be talking about the Mariners and all the offensive struggles they've had. Man, there's been a lot. So I wanted to go over that and give my general thoughts on it and their deadline as well. So yeah, going over that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks and bye.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fourth segment, which is going to be talking about the Seattle Mariners and their offensive struggles. So let's get into that. But before we do it, once again, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. Really does help out. Really does mean a lot. Thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show once again today. All right, so the Seattle Mariners are one of the most interesting teams in all of baseball this year. A team that really is just very interesting to think about and watch, and a team that I always have my eye on because of just how interesting and how eye-grabbing their team is. How, there's just always something going on with them, and I did want to talk about it here. So, with them this year, what's really been the problem, of course, really for the past 2 years now, I'd say, maybe longer than that, is their offense. This Mariners team has what I would say is the best pitching in all of baseball, really up there with the other elite teams like the Braves, like the Royals as well, where their pitching staff is just absolutely fantastic. The problem is now their offense is absolutely horrible. It's been one of the worst in baseball for a good few months now, and there's also been some problems as well now with the two men you see on the screen here if you're watching on YouTube. Julio Rodriguez and J.P. Crawford both are going on the injured list and are both going to be out for, I would say, a pretty significant time. J.P. Crawford is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks with an injury to his hand, I believe it is. And Julio Rodriguez is going to be out more than the 15 days that is going to require in the injury list for his injury. I believe it should be around a month if I'm just doing like a general, wondering. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it kind of just is the most likely scenario here. But, yeah, I think really if the Mariners want to compete, they have to get off the ground with their offense, and they have to just do much better. So, let's go over these Mariners team offensive stats, shouldn't we? They're just really interesting. We're going to go by the players with the most plate appearances on this team and see what's going on with them. Julio Rodriguez, weighted runs created plus of 101. He's barely above average, and you're paying him millions and millions of dollars a year. A big contract. Congrats. Cal Raleigh, second most plate appearance on the team, 105. Not horrible, but you're expecting more from a guy like that. Third, Ty France, weighted runs created plus, 96. He is now DFA'd, so it's not great. It's not great. Fourth, J.P. Crawford, 90. He is also on the injured list and still hasn't been great. Mitch Garver, 85, bad. Josh Rojas, 94, bad. Mitch Haniger, 104. I'm sorry, Mitch Haniger. What is that now? Mitch Haniger. Oh, 104. Okay, I was right the first time. What do you... Sorry, I had to turn on my mic there. I did sneeze, so thanks, I'm sure all you were very happy you got to see that on camera. But, yeah, it's just this offense is just filled with mediocrity. And the problem is they can't exactly rebuild because they have such an insane pitching staff. Logan Gilbert and Luis Castillo are what I would say at least 2 top 25 pitchers in baseball. Brian Wu and Emerson Hancock are also some very solid younger players as well. And they have other people there with that depth that also are great starting pitchers as well. So it's just, you need to be able to hit with this pitching staff. Even if you had 3 above average hitters, better than you have right now, I think you could be consistently very good. And the thing with the Mariners is they were, of course, very high in the AL West the entire year. They were leading it for a good amount of time. I remember doing a segment on it when they took over. And now looking at them in the standings, you look at the AL West here. They are currently in second. They're tied for first place with the Astros, I should say, who have done much better than them in their last 10. The Astros are 5-5. Mariners are 3-7. But even before that, the Astros probably have been the best team in baseball since June. They've really gotten it going. Really have looked like the Astros of old, and that's kind of a problem if you're a Mariners fan or you're on the Mariners, because you don't want the Astros looking like that. I mean, they're a consistent threat to your team. So I think that overall, with this Mariners team, it is going to be a problem with them to be able to compete and continue to be the team that you would like them to be. So it is very interesting to see what is going to happen with their offense. I mean, the Rangers are only 3 games behind as well. They're only 3 games under 500, which is a great improvement from the start of the year. So the Mariners really, if I was them, I would have tried to take advantage of both the Astros and the Rangers not doing well at the start of the year, and they did. Just not enough. I would have tried to get out 5 or 6 games ahead, and then when these offensive struggles rolled in, like they always do, you would have been able to kind of deal with it. But now you're kind of screwed. So if I'm them, I'm really looking to get a lot of bats, and they've been connected virtually to every single bat in the market. There's a bat out there, they've been connected. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., connected. Isaac Paredes, connected. Luis Robert, connected. Jazz Chisholm, connected a lot. Tommy Pham, connected. I go over every single bat that's available at the deadline, and I think I've heard at least 1 or 2 rumors about them. That's how desperate they are for bats. And now with Julio Rodriguez and J.P. Crawford, 2 of your better players who, yes, aren't having the best offensive seasons, but if anyone's going to have better offensive seasons turn around, it's going to be these 2 guys because of their pedigree. They are now out for a little while. So there's a lot of problems I see with this Mariners team. If I'm them, I'm really just going all in on hitting because, man, teams do not want to face this pitching in the playoffs. I am telling you that. I mean, if you score 2 to 3 runs, this game's probably over. That's how good this pitching staff is. It's just I don't know if they can score 2 to 3 runs every day because of how underwhelming this offense is. You, of course, just DFA Ty France, who, of course, I think deserved it, has been pretty bad, but you're now replacing him with Tyler Locklear, who hasn't exactly been the greatest in his few chances given at the MLB. Are you really going to have him as your starting first baseman trying to make the playoffs? Now, I listened to John Heyman's live show today on Bleacher Report, where he always gives out great information, and he talked about how they're going really hard after Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It's just the Blue Jays simply don't want to trade him, which I get. It's kind of not your fault. But if you're going hard after him, go hard after Luis Robert. Go hard after Jazz Chisholm. Go hard after these guys who are really young and very good as well. I mean, you have a fantastic farm system and a lot of young players as well in the MLB roster that I think you'd be willing to trade. Luis Robert is not a player that comes available at the deadline every year. This is a guy with 3.5 years of control, cheap as well, who is a fantastic player. If I'm them, I'm offering up whoever I want. I mean, Cole Young, Harry Ford, Colton Emerson, Lazaro Montes, Felony Celestin. I apologize for announcing that top prospect's name wrong. Tyler Locklear as well, who I haven't been the greatest on. I still think is a very good, who still is a top prospect, so a lot of potential. These are 6 prospects here that I would say are consistently named as top 100 guys. All for 2 of them. Like, I don't see what the problem is here. Get that. Wait for Julio to heat up. Wait for J.P. Crawford to get healthy. Wait for him to heat up. Mitch Garver's a professional hitter. He'll figure it out. So will Mitch Haniger or a Polanco, I think. And then you got yourselves a lineup. Go after these guys heavy. Try to get your offense better because the AL is looking pretty weak right now, I'd say. The Yankees aren't doing as great as you expect them to. The Mariners are kind of, Astros, the Orioles. Orioles aren't doing as great as you expect them to as well. They've kind of stumbled these past 2 weeks. Still very good teams as well, but still, you got to take advantage of this. As I'm speaking, Mitch Haniger just hit a home run in his game, so that's nice. But overall, if I'm the Mariners, I'm really going hard on this offense. You really need to be able to find these guys that can help out this offense, help out with the consistency of it, which is really the big problem. And yeah, I think that you really need to just figure out what is wrong with this team and figure out the problems that are hindering them. I mean, I think you got to acquire at least 2 bats who want to be competitive. I don't think you can waste this rotation because, how long is it till one of these guys gets a big arm injury and then you're kind of screwed with it and then you don't have anything good. So overall, if I'm the Mariners, I'm really, really trying to get those bats. I need to be able to consistently make this team really good. And just, it's a problem right now with this offense with how bad it is. And J.P. Crawford and Julio Rodriguez now being out for a significant amount of time as they have, it's a problem. So overall, this Mariners team needs to acquire some bats, needs to just get better in that regard, and needs to take advantage of where they are in the AL West. As much as the Astros and Rangers have done better recently, you're still tied in first place. The Rangers are still 3 games back. They're still under 500. So you need to take advantage of these situations that probably wouldn't be happening in any other year and make sure that you use them to your advantage. So that is it for my 4th segment here, talking about the Mariners and their offensive troubles and just going over what has happened with them and just, overall what is going on with them and what they need to do. Moving into my 5th and final segment here today, which is going to be talking about Alex Cora and his extension from the Boston Red Sox. So we'll be going over that, the Red Sox future, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so we're doing that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye. And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our 5th and final segment for today, which is going to be talking about Boston Red Sox and the extension to their manager, Alex Cora. So let's get into that. So Alex Cora's future has been something that I think has been really under the radar for this Red Sox team for a little while now. It's something that I've had my eyes on for a little while, as it's been really interesting because on paper, he should have extended a long time ago. I mean, he had 1 year left in his contract going into this year. And it's very rare for managers to be a free agent or go into a year not having a new contract. I mean, you saw with Craig Counsell last year, and he got a huge contract from the Cubs. Obviously, that hasn't exactly worked out the greatest for either party, but still, that is an example of it. And going into this year, it was very interesting how we heard a lot of murmurs that Cora didn't want to stay with the Red Sox. He wanted to move on, go to the free agent market, see what he could get, and that was really interesting to me. And we're now seeing that either that was a lie or they offered him a lot of money. It was announced today by Jeff Passan that they were finalizing a 3-year contract for him to remain as manager, and it was then announced that there would be $70 million per year on his contract, $21 million over 3, the second highest manager contract ever, of course behind the big fish of last year, Craig Counsell, who had a huge contract going in, getting it in the offseason as a free agent, which again, you never see managers get a free agent contract, quote unquote, just, of how it is, not players, they're managers. So with that, it was really, really interesting to be able to dive deep into this and just kind of talk about the Red Sox now with this. So yeah, first of all, I want to say I like this contract a lot. I think Alex Cora is a really solid manager. I know some fans don't like him because some of his on-field decisions aren't the greatest, but I'm still firmly of the belief that managers really ever make on-field decisions anymore. I really think most of that comes from above the general manager, president of baseball operations. Them, I think they're really the ones making the lineups, telling them what pitching changes they want in the game, whatever situation comes up. I do believe that always happens. So as much as I do think there is some control managers have nowadays, it's definitely not as much as they used to have. I mean, that's why you're seeing older managers kind of get out of the game a little bit because they're not going to take those orders. I mean, you just saw Buck Showalter really as the last old guy to get pushed out. I mean, Bob Melvin is still in baseball, yeah, but he's, I'd say, more modern of the older managers. Bruce Bochy's there as well. I would kind of put that as a little bit of a, just a little bit of a, he's just there. He's kind of, I forgot the word now, of course, but yeah. So with Cora, I like the ascension a lot. I think that Cora is a very good manager. I like his decisions a lot. I like the way, mainly, which I think managers are doing nowadays. I like the way he's always been able to put the clubhouse together. The Red Sox have dealt with a lot of adversity and a lot of different situations over these past few years with their management, with their team, and it's always seemed like the dugout had a lot of good vibes going on it. The players always liked each other. There was never really any reported problems, even with all that going on. So I think Cora's done always a really good job with that. And having consistency as manager is very important as well. That's why you're seeing all these teams hire younger managers who maybe don't have the most experience, but still are young. I mean, you just saw the Guardians hire Stephen Vogt as their manager, who had zero managing experience ever, zero coaching experience. I mean, he just got out of being a baseball player 2 years before. So you're seeing, and also that's worked out great. The Guardians are one of the best teams in baseball. So not exactly like it's just not working. You're seeing this nowadays a lot more, where they're hiring younger managers to develop them and kind of looking at them as prospects and being able to keep them for a long time, because a consistency at a leadership position like manager is very, very important for baseball and very important for these teams as well. I think Cora, again, knows what he's doing there, has a ton of friends within that Red Sox dugout, a lot of players who go to bat for him, and being able to extend him now, I think, is a really good job by them, and I think really helps you lock down a piece of your future. You know, this Red Sox team really has revitalized their future with this year. I think a lot of people, including myself, were really not expecting that great of a year. Kind of just a mediocre year to kind of get really towards next year after not spending a lot of money. But you've had a lot of breakout performances. I mean, Tyler O'Neill's become a fantastic hitter with this team. Kenley Jansen has had a career resurgence. Nick Pivetta, Tanner Houck, Garrett Whitlock have become really solid pitchers for this team. And they're now very close to a wild card position in this AL. So you've really had your future become revitalized within this year, and I think keeping a part of that, which is Alex Cora, on for the next 3 years is very important. Cora has become a mainstay in that Red Sox organization. Of course, the 1 year he was out because he was suspended because of his part in the Astros sign stealing scandal when he was the Astros third base coach, of course. Other than that, he's been there consistently. He's been a great presence, and again, I'm very happy that the Red Sox were able to get this done. And it was really interesting to me that I had heard a lot of rumors from very valuable Red Sox sources that Cora didn't want to extend with this Red Sox team and wanted to test his value. Now, I don't know if that was true or not true. I think maybe he was true, and they just gave him the money he wanted, so kind of been interesting there. But obviously the Red Sox ownership has not spent as much money as fans, and I would say now Cora would like them to. There was a comment last offseason that I think really stuck with a lot of people. Was someone asked Cora, what moves are you going to be making? He said, I don't really expect us to make any big moves. We're kind of just staying put. You don't really want your manager saying that. It kind of doesn't really show faith in the current ownership group and the current general manager group there as well. I mean, you had Chaim Bloom just get fired as well. So you obviously had a little bit of a change up there in the big boy offices and the general manager and president of baseball operations there. But I think now keeping Cora and being able to have him as a big part of your future is very exciting. And, there are a lot of manager openings after this year. I think that Cora could have gone a lot of places, and it would have been really, really interesting to see what people would have paid for a guy like Cora, who has a lot of experience, is relatively young. People like him. You don't really ever hear anything bad about him. Of course, you heard the Astros sign stealing stuff, but he was the third base coach. What is he really gonna do with that? I mean, it's not really his fault. It's a lot of other people's fault more than him. So I don't really take that. I typically take that as a grain of salt mostly. So I think for the Red Sox to be able to get this contract done, secure a big part of your future right now is very good. And looking at this Red Sox team at the deadline, they're a very interesting team. I mean, I don't know if they should buy. I don't really know if they should sell. I don't really know either. I don't think they should full out sell. I mean, they're clearly not rebuilds anymore. They're clearly a team that is going to try to at least be competitive, and a team that is going to try to at least win some games. And you do have some one-year contracts on your books, Kenley Jansen, Tyler O'Neill, but both have been very solid players for you. So what do? Do you keep them? Do you extend them? Do you trade them? Do you try to go for it and add other pieces as well, rentals, controllable pieces? So overall, I think that this Red Sox deadline is going to be very, very interesting to watch, very exciting to be able to see. And yeah, overall, it is something that I am just very interested in watching as a team. And I think extending your young manager who has proven to be a star in this league, who would have been very coveted, is a good first step, and I'm very excited for it. I also think manager contracts can be very interesting to watch in the future as well. two guys I'm looking out for are Mark Kotsay and Skip Schumacher, two great managers, two great young managers as well who have playing experience that are probably going to leave their team after this year because their team is really bad. So that means there's probably be a lot of teams lining up for Schumacher, lining up for Kotsay. I mean, there are a lot of teams that could make manager changes after this year. I think the Giants could be one, and that's a very, very interesting situation to be able to get into. I also think the Padres could be one. I think the Cardinals as well are definitely going to be one, assuming they don't make the playoffs. We'll have to see about that. I don't think the Cubs will have to sign that huge contract, but he hasn't been really great. So I think the future of manager contracts is also going to be very interesting to watch as well, and something that I think becomes a bigger story as baseball continues to grow and continues to move on into the future. So that is my show for today, guys. I want to thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, to the notification bell to not only get notified when I upload, when all the other great content creators on this channel do. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you so much for watching. I did mention yesterday I thought today would be my trade deadline extravaganza video where I kind of predict everything going on. Unfortunately, I think I'm gonna move that back to Monday when I have a lot clearer vision of what teams are going to sell, what teams are going to buy, what players are going to be fully available. So I think I am going to move that back to Monday, and that is when that's going to be. Also have the deadline to fully prepare for that as well and give the best insight, because trade deadline is my favorite time of the year and is always really, really fun to watch. So yeah, thank you again so much for watching today. It's a beautiful day outside. Enjoy it, and we'll see if baseball throws at us tomorrow. Thank you guys, and bye. See you then.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.